A Notch training presentation by Notch Testing and Training Consultancy Services.
All right, let's get right into it. When you think about emergency medicine, what comes to mind? Probably a lot of drama, right? Beeping machines, quick decisions, life-saving procedures. But behind all that action, there's this quiet, super methodical process that is just as critical: collecting a patient's sample. Today, we're going to look at why this is so much more than just a simple task. It's really the unseen pillar of patient safety, especially when the stakes are highest.
So, let me ask you this. Picture that chaos in the ER. In the middle of all that, what's the one single step that can literally make or break a diagnosis? What's the thing that can steer doctors down the right path or send them completely off course? Well, it turns out the answer is right there in the careful, precise collection of a patient's sample. So, to really get why this is so incredibly important, we have to first understand the environment we're talking about. This isn't just any clinic, it's a place where every single second counts.
Yeah, we're talking about the emergency room or an ICU. I mean, this is a place with an unbelievable amount of pressure. You've got staff trying to act super fast, super efficiently, and a lot of the time they're working with incomplete information and under just massive stress. It is the very definition of a high-stakes environment.
And here's the kicker. There's a direct, unbreakable link between the sample and the treatment. Think about it. Every decision is crucial. The quality of a treatment plan, the drugs they give, the procedures they do, it all hinges on getting reliable test results. And those results, they're only as good as the sample they came from. Garbage in, garbage out.
So how do you make sure you get a good sample? Well, it's not luck. It's by following something called pre-analytical conditions. This is a really key term. Basically, think of it as the official rulebook that covers everything before the sample even gets near a lab machine. We're talking how it's collected, how it's stored, and how it's transported. Following these rules isn't optional. It's the only way to guarantee a sample is actually valid for testing.
Okay, so if the pre-analytical conditions are the rulebook, what are the actual plays on the field? This next part breaks down the specific protocol, the step-by-step process that healthcare staff have to follow every single time to make sure nothing goes wrong.
Now, this isn't just some to-do list. It is a mission-critical safety checklist. It all starts with being 100% sure you have the right patient. Simple, but so important. Then, you've got to use the correct collection tube, because different tests need different kinds. Next, immediate and perfect labeling. No room for error there. And finally, you have to coordinate with the lab to cut down on any delays. You see, every single step is there for a reason, to prevent a mistake that could have serious consequences.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the core challenge of emergency care. The pressure to act fast is just immense, right? Especially when a patient is critical or you're in a disaster situation. But this principle has to be the guiding light. The need for speed can never, ever be an excuse to compromise on quality. The stakes are simply too high. Now that we have a handle on the process, let's actually look at the samples themselves, because not all samples are created equal. Each one has its own unique rules, its own little secrets, you could say.
And the range of samples that are collected is incredibly broad. I mean, we're talking about everything from the usual suspects like blood and urine to much more specific things like sputum, different kinds of body fluids, even secretions from wounds. This variety just goes to show you how versatile and knowledgeable a healthcare worker needs to be.
So let's look at some specifics, because the details here matter a lot. For a blood sample, the type of tube is absolutely critical. Some need an anticoagulant to stop clotting, and some don't. Get it wrong, and the test is useless. For microbiological samples, things like swabs, timing is everything. They have to be collected before any antibiotics are given. Why? Because the antibiotics can kill the very bacteria you're trying to find. The bottom line is, every sample type needs a unique approach to keep it from being compromised.
So up until now, we've been really zoomed in on the individual patient. But let's pull the camera back for a second and look at the much bigger picture, because the impact of this one small action goes way, way beyond the four walls of the emergency room.
Seriously, that one vial of blood, that one little swab, it seems so small and insignificant in the moment, but its importance just radiates outward. When you take the data from that one sample and combine it with thousands of others, it becomes something much, much more powerful. And that something has a name: epidemiological surveillance. It sounds a bit technical, but it's really just the formal process of collecting and analyzing health data from all those patient samples. It's basically how public health officials keep a finger on the pulse of an entire community's health. So how do we spot a flu outbreak before it becomes an epidemic? Or identify a brand new, dangerous pathogen?
The answer is through this surveillance. Those individual patient samples are our first line of defense. They provide the critical data that we need to spot and control public health threats. Each sample is a tiny data point that helps ensure the safety of the entire community.
Which brings us right back to the people on the ground. When you see it this way, you realize this isn't just another task they have to do. It's a core professional skill. It's an absolutely essential competency that shows their precision, their attention to detail, and their commitment to the safety of not just their one patient, but of society as a whole.
So let's just end with this thought, which I think sums it all up perfectly. This seemingly simple act of collecting a sample is truly a high-impact clinical responsibility. It's not something you just learn once and then you're done. It takes continuous training, unwavering precision, and a really deep commitment to patient safety. And it leaves us with a big question, right? How can we better support and train our healthcare heroes in this essential but so often overlooked pillar of medicine?